All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody. I'm Adam Kaplan. I'm joined by Colin Hendershot, and we are going to be discussing our top 24 films in the year 2024. We had an awesome time last year doing our top 23 of 23. Figured let's roll it back, man. Let's make this an annual tradition.
Oh yeah,
How you
let's keep
doing?
it moving. I'm doing great, man. It was a banner movie watching year for me. My Letterbox diary cracked 500. My first watches was almost 500. And
You're
there was
putting in
some
the work.
absolutely. And like there's some banter about like how good or not good 2024 was, but considering all of like the strikes and everything and like still getting out of like the COVID years, I thought there was some great stuff this year. I enjoyed a lot.
Yeah, let's talk quickly about the year 2024 in movies. Overall, did you think it was a good year?
So I did surprisingly so, because there was less that I was like heavily anticipating, but also I think that it's because the most anticipated lists are normally really top heavy with event movies. And when you
Right.
factor in that, like last year we had Oppenheimer, last year we had Barbie, last year we had a Mission Impossible movie, we had a Spider-Verse movie. Like there was so many things that were just like really, really amped up things to look forward to. And this year I felt was less tentpole driven and more just like movies that I watched and was just like, wow, like I really found myself into this. So that's what I am gonna remember the most about 24.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Like, just a brief background, how it's like this is going to be my monologue to essentially just say, yeah, I agree with you. Of like, so like when I rank Letterboxd, it goes by 5 stars. I will personally rarely rank a film 5 stars. For me, you have to be the best of the best. You have to earn that 5 star, and that's
Right.
hard to do. And like, that's okay. Then I have 4.5 stars, and to me, those are reserved for like, this is dope. I love it. I will ride or die for you. But you don't quite make it to the best of the best. Because for me, it's like you got to have that top layer. You have to earn it. So like last year, we both had Blackberry top of our list. I know you had
Hmm.
Oppenheimer number two. I had Barbie. Those to me were 4.5 star films. I will ride or die. I love them. They're just not. They don't just rise to the top of the heap. But you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
then I have 4 star, which is I adore it. I have a lot of love for it. I also have a lot of flaws. Then 3.5 is kind of I like it. It's pretty good. It probably has like a third act problem. And then 3 stars are like, it's solid. And for me, out of my 24 movies I'm going to talk about, 21 of them are 4 star films. So, like, to me, that runs deep. I think it's like a super deep year for really interesting films. I almost compare it to like 2020, the COVID year, where again there wasn't a whole lot of like tentpole films because a lot of them got canceled. Unless you're like Bad Boys that got released in like February, there wasn't really a whole lot of movies. But to me, I thought there was a lot of really interesting indie films and a lot of really interesting projects that came out of the year that I'll still like. The sound, I love Sound of Metal, the Riz Ahmed movie.
Yeah.
There's a small film called Shithouse by this guy named Cooper Rafe, who's like 23 or something, and it premiered at South by. Like, there's a whole bunch of like really interesting films that still came out of 2020. Like, I like 2020 a lot more than like 22 or 23, not 23, but like 22. I think 2022 is like a bad year personally. And right. So basically, like, yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of like really interesting
Yeah.
stuff to talk about. And I think like when I was looking at my 4 star reviews, I'm like, I definitely didn't have this many 4 star reviews in 2023. So there's like, I think a lot of solid, but to me, I only have one 4.5 star film. And obviously we'll get to it at the very, very end. And even still, that's just because it just affected me emotionally, just where I was in my life. Like, I don't know if it's like really a 4.5 star film. I kind of, based upon the IMDb reviews, I don't think a lot of people agree, but just it's like, I love it. If like your movie that like makes me cry like 5 times during it, it's going to be high. Like I had the Iron Claw, for example, last year, super high
Yeah.
because I was just like sobbing in the theater at the end. Like if you're a movie like that, it's obviously not necessarily the most enjoyable watch, but man, that's what movies are for. As Roger Ebert said, they're empathy machines. If you're going to create empathy with me, like I love you. So with that, do you want to start it off? You want to kick it off? Your number 24 film?
Do you want to do honorable mentions?
Okay, sure. So
Yeah,
yeah, why don't
I
you
have
start with some
a
honorable mentions?
yeah. And these we can just rattle off. We don't have to really like go in depth on them for the sake of time. So I'll just give my list. I have like 7 of them. So
Shoot.
uh, I'm somebody who just intensely values the theatrical experience. So anything that I had fun with a crowd is going to be like just like happy memories for me. So with that in mind, I put on Bad Boys for Life. Uh, I weirdly think that is like the best one of that franchise.
I totally
It
forgot there
just
was a Bad Boys movies that got released this year.
yeah. And you know what? I totally wrote down Bad Boys for Life, but it's Bad Boys Ride or Die. I just
Right,
wanted it
because
to
it
be
should be
Bad
Bad
Boys for
Boys
Life
for
because
life.
right, like they even made a joke about that. Uh, the Beekeeper, the January Jason Statham movie that has become like an annual tradition. Like it's like very dumb in a lot of ways, but also it's like a really like
It's a Jason Statham
awesome.
movie.
Yeah, like is it like and it's like hilarious to watch. Um, I was like, like mentally trying to have this crack my 24, but I just can't get it there. And it's Beetlejuice. I had so much fun with it. I like the first Beetlejuice is a top like 50 all time movie for me. The new one, like it did a lot of stuff that I liked. I enjoyed it. It was innovative, but like there's some weird stuff at the end, and just overall I'm just like, like I appreciate this more than I genuinely like it, uh same idea. Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. uh my main gripe with that movie is just like I hate Netflix for not putting stuff in theaters,
Yeah.
like because Beverly Hills Cop in theaters, like that should have been like just a no-brainer. uh you are probably going to be surprised by this honorable mention, The Brutalist.
Oh,
Yeah, I bet you were expecting that to be a little bit
I
higher.
the Brutus didn't make my list either. You want to talk about the
Yeah,
Brutus real quick?
sure. Let's
I
knock it out.
I because I've listened to some podcasts, particularly Ringer podcasts, and the guy who hosts it, Sean Fennessy, is I think super smart guy. He did 2 podcasts on it. He had super insightful um insights about what that movie is. And I listened to it. I'm like, you know what? That's great. But when I see a movie, I want to be a movie. I hate pretension when it comes to like direction. It's not only what the movie is, but like how it's told. And I think that's my problem with that movie
Hmm.
is that it just, the first scene where Agent Brody's character is on a boat and he's coming off and it's like crowded and there's the Hungarian words on the screen that I'm trying to read and there's chaos. And then he walks out and you see the Statue of Liberty under upside down that's on the poster. And I'm like, man, fuck off. And I think
See, oh
that
man.
like, and then there's the Brady Corbet does super obvious shit in it that like me already going kind of pissed, and I saw that in the theater too. Like it just pissed me off even more. The obvious metaphors of like a train literally goes off the tracks. Um, the ending climax basically with the Guy Pearce character. I don't want to say ruin it, but like it's like a literalization of a money man and an artist. I'm like, this is
So
unnecessary.
that's what I'll say. So first of all, I chuckled because that opening scene with the upside down Statue of Liberty, I loved that. I thought that was just like awesome imagery, and it was not subtle, but also ended up being like one of the most subtle things in the movie. And that is why it's in my honorable mentions, because I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was just incredibly well paced for how long it was. I really enjoyed the intermission, uh, and the sequence leading up to the intermission and what they did with the intermission. Like they found a way to actually like weave that in as almost like a plot feature, you know. Um, they did a solid job with the passage of time. That really irritates me in some movies where you're just supposed to gather that years have gone by, and they do a good job with it, without having it be just like spelled out for you. Uh, we don't have to get into spoilers, but I completely agree with what you're talking about, is how literal it was with the how to call it in a non-spoiler way, but like the literal and non-figurative violation of the artist in this case.
Yeah,
Like in that particular scene, it didn't even quite connect with me exactly what was happening until later on. And having the climax of the movie go the way that it does, that was just a mixed bag. Like the ending was a real mixed bag for me, and that was what stopped it from like going into at least my top 24. Um, it it, I it just it was just a little too on the nose for my taste, and it was subversive, which I like. I really enjoy subversion, but at the same time, you know, like I like, without getting into spoilers, I have a different ending in mind that I would have preferred.
yeah. All right. What else almost cracked your list?
Uh, my other almosts are Challengers. Super cool movie. Just not one that I think I'll go back to like a lot, but just a very like cool and well done movie. Like a lot of layers to like the thruple. Uh, a movie that had a very similar effect on me as The Brutalist, which was Conclave. Uh, I loved everything technically about Conclave, but the ending just took me out.
Yeah, the
It
twist
was
sucks.
so like I get what they were going for, but it was just so extreme compared to how muted the rest of the movie is. I'm just like, oh, you know, I was just so into how like trashy and pulpy of a mystery it was, and just like a good old fashioned just like 90s thriller that you're just like locked into, and it just like that was how they decided to top it off, and I'm just like, oh. And then the last one that I wrote down is a smaller movie called Dee Dee. It's about a Chinese American family, and the young son is growing up in the 90s, and it was like, again, just like some third act stuff that I was just like, you know, like okay, but like watching it was such a fun time. It's really funny, and it's got a lot of like stuff from that era that just like hits home for people my age. I think we're around the same age, so like
Yeah.
just we're certainly both millennials, and so just it was a really interesting one to watch and enjoy and kind of relive a certain time period from like the AOL Instant Messenger days.
Yeah. Dee Dee looked really interesting. I just unfortunately never got around to it.
Yeah,
So when I mentioned that I have 21 of my 24 films are 4-star films, my 23rd and 24th film are 3.5-star films, and I have a bunch of them. And I was really debating, like, what should I do with that 24th film in particular? At one point, I had Honora as my 24th film, kind of do that Rolling Stone thing of putting kind of a controversial big movie right up front when they do their like top 100 list as number 100. Um, someone described the middle half of Honora as After Hours, and it's like, man, that's why I fucking love the middle part of Honora. ultimately I couldn't do it because I like Sean Baker's previous two films too much, and Nora was a little bit of a letdown. Um, so for me, that's a 3.5 star film. I think it's good, but I find it weird that this is Sean Baker's crowning achievement, personally. The documentary Martha about Martha Stewart, it is a pretty standard biopic, except for the fact that it's the center. Like Martha Stewart, like the director had final cut, which means Martha Stewart was like pissed at it. So it like showed like a real aspect of Martha Stewart. Like it really gets into her felony. There's parts where literally the visualization like contradicts Martha's testimony, or like Martha will say something and then like have facts to contradict her. I was like, at least that
Yeah,
was super interesting about that doc.
yeah,
Um,
that's interesting.
Deadpool and Wolverine was just a lot of fun. Um, it's like just to me like super empty Halloween candy. It's like really tasty, but like it's just a fun Marvel movie and this nothing else. So like kudos, it made a bajillion dollars, but couldn't crack my top 24. And then Snack Shack. I love coming of age films. It's coming of age films. I think this is also set in the 90s too, about two boys running a snack shack um, at their local pool. It's coming of age stories. The plot is always like you're never gonna like fill in, like you're never gonna tease people in with the plot. But if you love coming of age stories, it's right up your alley. I just found again it didn't cohere well at the end. So those are some of the ones I considered for those last few spots. But let's get into our list. You want to start off your 24th film?
Yeah, I'll kick off my 24. So my 24 is one that when the trailer for this came out late in the year, I was ready to run through a wall to watch this movie. And it was Guy Ritchie's The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
I had that
Uh
much higher. I have that. Where did I have that? 15. So let's just knock it
yeah,
out right
that
now.
15. Okay. So I originally had it a little bit higher and I ended up bumping it down just because uh this is going to sound like a stupid criticism, but it took itself a little too seriously for what it was advertised. It was to me, it was advertised as a very like kind of like a Suicide Squad, kind of like a Quentin Tarantino, kind of like
I
a
think it's
like
it's
that.
very obviously advertised as Guy Ritchie's Inglorious Bastards.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it wasn't exactly that, which is fine. It's still good. I gave it my rating on it is 4 out of 5. Uh, I will definitely go back to it, but I loved Operation Fortune that he did from a couple of years
Yeah.
ago. I really really liked Wrath of Man. Uh,
Arthur Man's
that would
dope.
that
Beginning of the
would
Josh
and
Hart Renaissance.
uh-huh. Uh-huh. And what's so awesome about Wrath of Man is that that's one that actually does take itself seriously and it just works with how
Yeah.
like turgid it is. So what I need to do is I need to rewatch. I haven't seen it since I saw it in theaters ministry. And so watching it with like the updated expectations, I think I'll probably be like, oh yeah, this is like super fun because Guy Ritchie is one of those guys that he's just cranking one out every year, and I'm like, dude, I just can't wait. Like In the Gray, I am so pumped for In the Gray. It got
Yeah.
delayed, and I don't think it has a date right now. It was supposed to come out in April, but like, I can't wait for that one, dude. Like, I like Guy Ritchie's killing it right now.
Yeah, to me, it was exactly what it delivered on. Whereas, no, I don't mean this. All due respect to Guy Ritchie, he's just not as good of a filmmaker as Quentin Tarantino. I think that's okay, and therefore, I think the ceiling of the Ministry is just going to be so much lower. Like to me, Glorious Bastards is a 5 star film. I think it's absolutely incredible. It's like almost perfect.
Yeah,
So to me, like I was just expecting kind of like this big dumb World War II film with the English against the Nazis, and to me, it delivered. Um, I think and they both have Till Schweiger in it, except
right.
technically he's playing a Nazi in both, but like actually a Nazi in Ministry. Um, to me, I kind of think the fun fell off in the third act with the huge
Yeah,
heist against stealing the boat. Um, but I just think it was super enjoyable. I saw like I think My wife and oldest was out of town. I put my youngest to bed, and I fired this up on Amazon. I'm like, God damn, this is a fun movie.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we no, I got to it in theaters. Uh, I saw it, my wife and I saw it with one of our friends, and it was just like I was so excited for it, and I watched it, and it was more my reaction to it was more just like, oh wow, like this is interesting, and they really like went to work representing like the real people in it. So like as and like you said it exactly right. Like the balls to the wallness doesn't hang around until the third act. Like the trailer has got Henry Cavill running around with his tongue sticking out. He's doing the Jordan tongue thing, and he like and I wanted that for like 2 hours. And so that's why it's not higher on my list, but I still enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah, it's a film that feels like it kind of came and went in an instant.
Yeah,
And I don't know if it's streaming anywhere. I rented it like right around when it first came to VOD, but definitely I think we both recommend. It's a lot of fun.
big time.
Um,
Yeah,
my number. So I will say I have a lot of like even though like I hate them, they like man every once in a while from Volume produce good films, and it's Netflix. So my number 24 is I have a lot of Netflix. I have 6 on my 24, and at some point I'm like, oh man, I wish I didn't do that. But also like I stand by all their films. So it's like, I
yeah.
don't know what am I gonna do. And it's a documentary called How to Rob a Bank.
Mm,
This came out earlier in the year. It got me with that title. And it's a documentary about this guy in the 90s who just became a prolific bank robber, and his story is basically Point Break and Heat, which is super cool. Like obviously two really fun bank robbing stories in its own right. And then it becomes metatextual because those films are like overtly referenced in the movie because they affected this guy's um like ethos.
yeah,
And then there is this like, the FBI becomes the FBI's most wanted list in the early 90s, and they actually nickname him Hollywood because like he wears these prosthetics and just goes in and robs a bank. And it's just because those heist films that we all know and love are so interesting. This is like a real life example of it. And just because I love a good heist film, I really dug this. And it's they have like a really fun animation and recreations to really like because the actual bank robberies are like kind of like they get into it a little bit. It's like it's scary being robbed, you know what I mean? Even though it feels kind of he has a little bit of Robin Hoodness in him. But
right.
they show the bank robberies through recreations and animation, and it's just a lot of fun and it's just really enjoyable. And I was watching a part of it to catch up on this last night. I was like, man, it's I know there's a lot of good films, but man, I really enjoy this. And not all documentaries need to be this like self-serious, gut-wrenching, oh, here's the war in Gaza, and that really pulls on your
Yeah,
heartstrings. Sometimes you can just have a fun documentary, and this was just a super fun documentary. So if you like heist movies, highly recommend
I
checking out the
do.
documentary.
Right on. No, I'll add that to my list for sure. There's always a certain time of year, especially around the Oscars, that I end up like spending like a week or two just watching docs. I get into a mode with them, and
All
that
right,
sounds
what's your
awesome.
number 20? Yeah, highly recommend. What's your 23?
My 23 is Evil Does Not Exist.
Oh,
Uh,
which one was this?
so have you seen Drive My Car?
Yeah, Raisuke Imaguchi is his name, right?
Hamaguchi, yeah.
Hamaguchi.
So
Thank you.
this is his new movie from
Ah,
so it was initial I think late 2023, but like for like festivals and stuff, but like it came out and available in 24, so I'm considering it a 24.
yeah,
Uh, and it is about a uh corporation that wants to install a glamping site in a very very small town in I forget which part of Japan it is, but during the winter there's this small town that is a very close knit community. and there's this caretaker that tends to like the forest and this like preserved area where they want to establish this campsite, and it's got all of this amazing imagery of the outside, just beautiful cinematography. And what the story follows is these people that are surveying the community to try and get them to buy in and basically like just kind of like nudge them in for their support to approve this property and have the community cooperate with them. And it's a lot of not your typical like like sticking it to the big corporation movie. It's there's some of that in there, but not in the very like not in like the Aaron Brockovich way, but in like a very just like wow, there's like these people are just so severely underestimated in a very, very subtle manner. And it's like, it's hard to describe because, especially because like Japanese, like people and communities, like their manner of speaking is not the same as in the West here. And so there's something just so matter of fact about all of the interactions that, and it's just riveting. There's this in particular, there's this scene where there's these two representatives from this company and they're there fielding questions, and the people are just getting so frustrated with them because they just can't answer questions, and it's just like I said, it's just gorgeous to look at. The story is just incredibly moving. It's obviously it ends up with a very, very like powerful environmental message, and the ending is like it's bizarre. The ending just like really caught me off guard, and it's I obviously again don't want to give anything away from it because again the ending is just like you just not at all what you expect, but it was extremely memorable for the imagery and for the story and the writing, and that's why I'm like I definitely need to shout this one out.
Oh, I'll have to check it out. My
Yeah.
number 23 is from, I'm pretty sure this guy's in his 80s. It's by a little known guy. His name is George Miller, and that's Furiosa. Um, I saw Furiosa the way George Miller intended in 30-minute increments while working out on my tiny 30-inch TV. Uh, Weirdly, though, I kind of think that watching it in 30-minute increments, like a TV show almost, worked to its benefit because in basically every 30 minutes, there's a really dope action set piece that's like, this is absolutely incredible, followed by some stitching together of like, I don't know that this is necessary, especially if everyone loves Fury Road. Like, I think that's ultimately why I couldn't put it to 4 stars, and it's only 3.5. This is my last 3.5 from the official list. Is that like when I heard that this was basically like they had a huge background for Furiosa for um Charlize, and it was like this was like George Miller, like he wrote and like gave it to her like just for her own internalization for her own acting, and then he basically made that into a movie, and it does kind of feel that way, which brings it down a little bit for me because it does feel like, man, we kind of already got this from Mad Max or from Fury Road. At the same time, the set pieces and the fight scenes are absolutely incredible. Chris Hemsworth being able to go all goofy and be the heavy in the movie without having any restrictions from Marvel is just so much fun. Um, and like again, just watching it from like here's a set piece, here's a set piece, here's a set piece is like I'm in, man. I'm in. Let's go.
So I I have Furiosa later on my list. I can spoil where that cracked for me.
If it's in your top 10, we don't have to talk about it now.
Okay, we don't have to talk about it now.
All right. What's 22 for you?
So 22 for me is a surprising one for me. Because for the most part, it's not going to be my cup of tea. But number 22 to me is undeniable that I had to include. It is The Substance.
So the substance for me
I
didn't make my list, but sorry, go on. I'll let
no
you
no no.
vamp about it.
So I saw it as a last minute pivot from something else because I did a ton of double features this year. Uh, and it was one where Coralie Farge, her prior movie is called Revenge, which I like more than The Substance because it's a little more straightforward, like it's like thriller movie. Uh, Definitely check that out if you get a chance. But I was planning on watching that uh, in short order, and when The Substance came out, it was there was just all this like talk about it. I really, really wanted to support female directed movies when I got the opportunity. I'm a fan of Demi Moore. She's in a lot of movies like that I really love historically. Uh, and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna go out for this. Like body horror is very much not my thing, but like this movie's just really a buzz. I wasn't expecting it to turn out to be an Oscar darling.
Yeah, that part's
But
crazy.
yeah, it's wild that worked out that way. Uh but
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I
Oh,
Yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
go on.
No, all I'll say is that
So for
it's
me,
just
this is
sorry, am I delayed?
yeah. Can
So
you hear me?
all I'll say is that yeah, I can hear you. So it's just extremely memorable. The like crazy imagery. The I like the satirical bit. I don't agree that necessarily that it's a comedy, but it is very much a satire, a heavy satire, and I like how blunt it is. Like it worked for me in The Substance, which is just a very, very like out there movie, as opposed to The Brutalist, which has a similar level of like unsubtlety, but is playing it very seriously. So
Yeah,
like Dennis Quaid was wild in there.
yeah. The
Oh,
acting's great. It's to
yeah,
me, I ranked it 3 stars because to its credit, it set out to do something specific and it did it. Like Carly Farge had this Cronenbergian mindset and executed it flawlessly. I've just never been a David Cronenberg fan, especially with the body horror stuff. Like I can't get through The Fly. I don't know if you have a different man on it. I even had a struggle like getting to that because of the makeup. Um, and so like I gave it a shot, and then for literally 3/4 of most of the movie, I'm like, okay, this is gross body horror. I can handle it. And then the climax happens, and I turned it off. I'm like, nope, nope, nope. Uh, like it is just not for me. Like I get why people like it, and that's why I didn't rank it like 2.5 stars or anything. It's just like this is what you wanted. I not for me. Nope, nope, nope. So
9 times out of 10, I'm right there with you. Like everybody loves The Thing. John
I
Carpenter's The
love.
Thing.
I actually do love the thing. That was hard too, but
And that's one for me where I'm just like, man, I can't like I appreciate this movie much more than I like it because like
yeah,
I'm just not it. And that's why like and The Substance is very, very similar for me. It's where like but like that ending, like people, two people got up and left the theater with less than 5 minutes left. Yeah, it is something else, man. So I totally get you.
yeah. It if like I said, when people talk body horror, for most of it, I'm like, this isn't bad. It's gross. Like the first time that Demi Moore uses the substance, like this is gross, but I can handle it. But then when Margaret Qualley ends up using it in the final
Yeah.
act, I'm like, I turned it off. I'm like, I'm going to bed. So, um,
So you didn't even see the end, dude.
no,
Oof.
once that creature emerged, I'm like, not for me. Nope. I I'll kudos to all the Oscar nominations and kudos to Demi Moore who's probably going to win, but
And
Okay.
good luck to all the people that are going to watch that thinking like, "Oh yeah, Demi Moore, I
Yeah.
love her." Whoa.
This is the start of my 4-star film run. It is almost the exact opposite. It is a Netflix film, and I think objectively it is like the worst, like the most TV Netflix film because it's directed and written by a bunch of people with a bunch of TV credits. But I also rewatched part of it again last night, and I'm like, I stand by this movie. Um, what are your thoughts on the Ron Howard film Frost Nixon?
I have not watched it in forever, but I loved it at the time.
Yeah, to me that's like my favorite Ron Howard movie, even over Apollo 13. I adore Frost Nixon,
Probably
and
mine too.
Frost Nixon is a film of basically this dude trying to interview, Frank Langella playing Nixon. And that's
Yeah.
basically what my number 22 film is. It's a film called Scoop. Um, it is basically so Prince Andrew, who I always have to look up the monarchy. He is the second son to Queen Elizabeth, so never going to do anything. Had ties to Epstein. Like in the
Hmm.
very beginning, it shows him being photographed by Epstein, and it basically tarnishes his reputation. Which honestly, it should in real life. And it's basically Gillian Anderson, who's the most famous person in it. She plays a BBC reporter, and also kudos to Americans actually getting to play British people, considering it's
Right.
always the other way around. Um, and the film is basically, Prince Andrew's team is trying to rehabilitate his reputation because this photograph of him being photographed with Epstein is like tarnishing him. So he's trying to like bring his reputation back versus Gillian Anderson and the BBC are like, nah, fuck this guy. We're going to bury him. And apparently it's a real life interview that like went viral on Twitter that I just wasn't familiar with. And then, if any sort of basic movie plots, where it's going. And it's still just, I love that. There's something about that structure of just like, here's this guy, he's going to be purposely a hard nut to crack, but we're going to get him down for this interview. That's like the final set piece. And we're going to get him to admit, to either admit something he shouldn't have, like in that Frost Nixon, like if the president does it, it's not illegal. It's like,
Yeah.
there's definitely stuff like that
Yeah.
in this movie. And so even though it may seem like very TV, it came out at the very beginning of the year. This is, I think, like a true, like not Netflix picked it up. Still, don't care. Huge fan.
That's cool. I didn't remember hearing about that. A lot of direct to Netflix stuff like misses my radar,
Yeah,
you know?
especially it was very early of the year, like I want to say
Yeah.
like February or March.
Yeah. Uh so at 21, this might be the lowest rating that I have on the list, but I still put it at 21 because the formula was always going to be undeniable for me. And this is something that you and I previously talked about, and you did your best to set me up, but I still watched it. I still enjoyed it. It was Wolves.
Oh, you like, well, okay. I guess
I did.
speak
I
on
did
it.
like it. I did like it. So here's the thing: as long as this movie had one aspect to it, it was always going to be something that I put my little letterboxed heart on, and it is that it gets the Danny and Rusty reunion right. And I love Ocean's 11, and my favorite part of all of those movies is just Brad Pitt and George Clooney just like bouncing off each other. Like it feels like riffing, but most of the time it can't be. And that's essentially just all this movie is. There is so much goofiness here. There's so much extra like nonsense. John Watts, like I feel like this is not really his strong area, but I still enjoyed watching it. It's just like it has exactly what I needed from it to for it to just be like, man, this is solid. I enjoy.
More power to you, man. I will say I respectfully disagree. Uh I mean, I love those Ocean's movies too, and I love those relationships, but just say I think it missed the mark. But
I
all
mean,
right, Russ.
I don't disagree with you, honestly. I really don't. But I can't deny that I was not watching it and just like, man, love these guys. You know?
All right. Well, another film that I think a lot of people felt missed the mark is my number 21, and that is Ridley Scott's Gladiator 2. Now, I have the benefit, I did see it in the theater. I also had the benefit of loving the original Gladiator, but also forgetting major plot points, which is kind of why I think I like Gladiator 2. Um, so I think for starters, I think no one does a set piece better than Ridley Scott. I know a lot of people dislike Napoleon last year, and I totally get it. Think the set pieces in that movie, the fight scenes are just outstanding. It's just like very clearly the Vanessa Kirby, Joaquin Phoenix relationship didn't work for a lot of people, and again, totally get it. And I think for me, for Gladiator 2, I think every single fight scene is just out of this world. Just like even the terrible CGI baboons, I'm like, this is still like a totally dope fight scene. Um, and to me, I'm like, I also think the story worked. And I think that's why I appreciate it is that even though it kind of went long, especially as it gets into end of the second act, into the third act, and Denzel Washington's character starts to take more and more power. Like I appreciated the story structure of like you have these heavies in the twins of Joseph Quinn and Fred Hetchinger and Pedro Pascal's character and Denzel Washington's character and oh, who's the main gladiator? I am having a brain fart.
uh, isn't
Sad
it
boy.
Claudius, right? Paul
No,
Mescal.
Mescal. Thank you.
Yeah.
To me, I actually kind of appreciated how all those stories intertwined and worked. And again, me forgetting plot points of Gladiator like really helped because I think if I remembered it, I probably wouldn't have it on my list. So for me, it has the best of both worlds of like having that Gladiator feeling and having for me watching it the story work with the set pieces. Uh, like it's just again these characters are intertwining, they're going in and out, and one's taking over. It's like that works for me, man. I'm just a simple story guy. And I get why people didn't like Gladiator 2. But to me, I think especially because I saw it in the theater, I was like, this movie's dope.
So I did watch Gladiator about 2 days, rewatch Gladiator about 2 days before seeing Gladiator 2. Gladiator is one that I've seen on AMC more times than I can probably count. Uh, and it had been forever since I actually sat down proper and watched the unchopped up version. And that is a movie that just like it has its flaws, but it is still just like one of the best, just like sword and sandals movies, especially in like modern vintage. So, with that being said, you're absolutely correct in your assessment of uh, how it impacts Gladiator 2 because I was just like, man, they really just said like same thing.
Yeah, yeah. Not only same thing, but the major plot point with Paul Mescal's character
Yeah.
really is like I was like, oh, this is dope when watching it, and then I remembered plot points of the first one. I was like, that's really dumb.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of like my brain's turned off.
So like
But it worked for me.
for me, it was fine. Like it was, I like again, like you said, amazing set pieces. Did not crack my 24, but
Yeah.
like I didn't dislike it. You know, it's like it's one of those ones that you're like, I come into this for a prestige picture, and what I get instead is an above average tentpole movie,
Yeah.
which it absolutely is in the hands of your Ridley Scott. But to me, it doesn't quite rise to the level of what the first Gladiator movie like
Yeah,
rounded
for
out to.
sure.
So
I get why people don't like it. I'm not
yeah,
oblivious.
yeah. So where are we at? Was that your 21?
That was my 21. So what's your number 20?
My number 20 is The Fall Guy. Uh,
Oh, love the Fall Guy. Just barely missed making it, but super fun. Talk on it.
I mean, I'm the same way. Like I didn't like 10 out of 10 love it the way that like because that is like my favorite trailer from the last year, except for maybe like the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Like if I was ranking like my favorite trailers from the year, Fall Guy is easily one or two. The one that uses Bon Jovi's "Shot Through the Heart" or "You Love a Bad Name." Like
Yeah.
I freaking love that trailer. Like Gosling is just like so good. Like I just everything about it was just like I cannot wait to go see this movie. And it was like parts of it like it overstayed its welcome a little bit. But it's another one that I kind of like, like I feel like I need to like sit down and actually watch this again, and I'll probably like actually like it more than just have fun with it. But the whole ending where like the like all like the stunt guys go, like even if you just view it as nothing but a love letter to stunt people, it's just like excellent. And it's so fun and so funny. And it's movies about movies is like one of my soft spots. Like you're gonna always get me right there. So yeah, that's why just like hugely enjoyable movie. Loved it.
Yeah, I took my wife and I. We went out for a date night, saw it, got dinner to eat. Great time at the film. Great time at the movies. Great night. It's it's like not. It's also not trying to be anything more than it is. And
Yeah.
I also think sometimes you just need to have a movie where movie stars are being movie stars. And Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt being the movie stars that they are, just having a good fun time. It's it sucks that this movie kind of bombed at the theater, and it also was like so I don't know who distributed it, but I think it's Universal.
I think
Uh,
so. Yeah.
regardless, I think if they had like kept it in the theater, it would have kind of just chugged along all
Yeah.
summer. And if you actually look at like the weeks of because it originally came out did bad, especially according to how much money they put into it. But then the next couple weeks, it was still in theaters and it didn't, it was still doing well. And I think they got scared and they were like, oh, we put so much money in marketing, let's put it on PVOD so people can still get the marketing. And I get that strategy, but man, I think if they just kept it in theaters, it would have just chugged
Hmm.
along all summer, uh, and done well. Because again, super fun movie. I think everyone was like you and I, just coming out of it, just like this was like a dope '90s action movie that doesn't take
Yeah.
itself too seriously. Just go and watch it in the theater, man. You'll have fun.
Really scratched my Tropic Thunder itch.
Oh, definitely, absolutely. I mean, I
Yeah.
think Tropic Thunder is a better film, but that's actually a good comp.
Of course. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's the same kind of movie, which
Yeah, for
is
sure.
again is just a easy in the door for me.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a huge recommend from both of us. Um, So I mentioned my last film had Fred Heckinger, and he had a pretty good year. And he also co-stars in my number 20 film, Thelma. It is from start the name Josh Margolin, and it stars like 93-year-old June Squibb. Um, and I don't know if you're familiar with this film, but it's at the very Heckinger plays Squibb's grandson, and at the very beginning, Squibb gets conned out of $10,000. Um, and then it's like this very low level chase, like set of adventures for her to get that money back. And I love that it's low stakes, so the movie can just have totally can have like fun with itself. Where you know, it like literally takes those classic revenge films. If you love those types of films, it has all those same tropes and beats, but because it's lower level stakes and it stars a 93-year-old woman trying to get it back, it's just an enjoyable experience. June Squibb, I actually really first noticed her in like Nebraska and just kind of loved her when
Yeah.
she popped up ever since. Like she shows up in Palm Springs. I'm like, oh man, you're great. You're actually kind of underused in this. So her getting a starring role at this age, and again, it's like it's also like not one of those things where it's like, man, elder abuse like actually is. I don't know. Did you ever see I Care a Lot with
I wanted
Gone
to
Girl?
because I love Rosamund Pike, but no, I
Yeah.
never got to that.
That's a film I hate because Rosamund Pike's character does such awful things to the elderly
Yeah.
that's one of those things where like it bugs me the wrong way. But it's the film like It's like she could like no one can really you like could lose $10,000. You know what I mean? But it's not like oh she has to go on the streets and stuff. It's just like man, fuck this. I got scammed. I want that money back.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just a really enjoyable experience. Fred Heckinger as the grandson does a really good job. I realize he's the kid from the first season of White Lotus. He's Sydney Sweeney's brother. And
Okay.
he's gonna be
I actually haven't watched White Lotus yet.
oh that's coming back
I'm
too.
very behind on TV. I'm very
Uh,
behind on TV.
but yeah, it's because it takes those revenge tropes and kind of turns it like subverts them
Yeah.
due to its protagonist, makes it a really enjoyable experience. So that's my number 20.
Yeah, Thelma's on my watch list. It was one that I was gonna try to get to at some point. I just never got around to it, but that's definitely one I'll be planning on checking out when I get a chance. So I should go to number 19 then.
Yeah, you're number 19.
My number 19 is Horizon: An American Saga, Chapter 1.
Ooh, bold choice. Speak
So
on it, Kevin Costner.
so first of all, I'm gonna go to bat for this movie, number one, because literally, have you seen this?
I started watching it and didn't understand who any character was, and so I couldn't get into it.
So it is definitely formatted like a TV show,
Yeah.
and very, very, very arguably would be better served as a like long running TV show. However, Kevin Costner, Academy Award winning director, said, "I'm making this for the theaters," and even though general audiences failed him, the Yellowstone crowd just did not want to get off the couch. I was just into this movie. And
This movie got to
I,
Netflix and like rose immediately to number 1.
because again, like they all stayed home, you know? Like and
Yeah.
as soon as it came to them, they just completely missed Kevin's point and I'm just like, man, because it's so cinematic, it's so like like all the characters, all the bouncing around. I'm like I enjoy just camping in the theater for that like almost 3 hour period and just like it just looks so good and and like as I've gotten older and as I've gotten more and more into some of like my cinephile tendencies, I've grown like a weird soft spot for certain westerns and I really enjoy these movies where people are just out there just like wandering around, you know. And there's a little bit of that in Horizon, but for the most part, I just really enjoyed the mosaic of characters. I was very into just the cinematography and the
Yeah, it
story.
looks great.
Like, yeah, like the story's like not like extremely engaging, but well, I should say that like the pacing is more engaging than the characters, but all of it worked well enough that I'm like, I'm in for part two. Like, when's it coming? And we still don't know. So it's like that kind of sucks.
I
But
think hopefully this year I heard, but
yeah,
yeah, it's tough.
but I enjoyed it. It was a big swing. It was a bold strategy. The here's part one, here's part two. Again, just kind of really rings of like a TV miniseries, but still, like he's trying to put it in theaters. He wants it in theaters, and I'm just like, man, I appreciate you. So yeah, cracks my top 20.
I just wish he had cast, and probably because of budgetary reasons, he couldn't, just a little bit more famous people in the bigger parts
Yeah,
outside of like Sienna Miller. Especially it's like because every white dude looked the same to me. And so like I just didn't know who I was rooting for. Like I saw the big set
yeah,
piece at the beginning, and that was awesome. Obviously, because it's Kevin Costner is really well done. I just didn't return to it because again, I didn't like feel anything because I didn't have a connection to any character.
I get
So
that, and you're right about the like I hate to say this, but it's true. Like if there was more like better actors in it, like then you get a lot more to latch on to.
right. All right. My number 19 film has a famous actor because he became famous in 2024, and that is Richard Linklater's Hitman. This is
Mm,
another technically it is a Netflix film, but to its credit, it premiered at South by Southwest. Can't speak. South by. And kind of weirdly what you're talking about, like I'm 100% agree. I'm always like up for seeing a movie in theater. I also will say Hitman was a really nice, enjoyable experience to watch on Netflix, where with the economics of the way this, world works, it might have been better for like more people might have seen it that it came to Netflix. And it's just like it has that Richard Linklater style to it where it's a little bit low stakes, but there's still stakes and you're still into it. I've been a fan of Glenn Powell. I think we all really became a fan after Maverick, but I've been enjoying his work. I really enjoyed the two films that he starred in this year. And I think this was like a really nice appetizer before Twisters of like, oh yeah, this dude is a star. He's charming as hell. He's got it. It's finally coming together for him. Where he plays this guy, based on a real life story of this police consultant who kind of gets thrown in as a guy pretending to be a hitman. And so people will come to him, pay him money to off someone, and then get arrested for soliciting and attempted murder. And I didn't realize this till later, but I assume you've seen this movie, right?
Yes, sir.
The very first guy that Glenn Powell talks to is kind of like this roughneck type guy. I went to high school with that dude and was like actually good friends with him. His name is Mike
The
Markoff.
real person or the actor?
The actor.
Okay.
It's played by this guy named Mike Markoff, who was always acting in high school, but like actually has a lot to do in this movie. And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even realize that's Mike. That dude that had given off performance, I didn't even recognize it was him.
That's cool.
But obviously, it's more Glenn Powell's movie. And what's her name? Adrian Arjona, I think is her name.
Yeah, Adrian Arjona. Yeah.
And unlike Glenn Powell's other film, there's actually kissing in this movie. There's adult scenes. Yeah, okay, a really enjoyable. I think I watched it like the Friday it came on Netflix. Like, this is just a great summer movie, and like Glenn Powell has just got it, man. And again, because I think also it has that Richard Linklater vibe to it. Like this, a real like any director can take a guy pretending to be a hitman, and like Michael Mann would have taken this on a totally different direction. You know what I mean? And that might have been probably been good too. But I love the Linklater kind of like laid back, style that he has in his movies to it, and I just thought it was just a really enjoyable experience.
So, I also saw Hitman. I think I watched it too really early on. So I was thinking about this the other day, and if I was doing Mount Rushmore of directors since like the 90s, Richard Linklater's on there.
Oh,
I love Dazed and Confused. I love this year I watched Everybody Wants Some, and
great. I
was
rewatched
like,
that too.
I could have watched that for like 10 hours. Yeah. But I was so off put by the ending of Hitman. It totally just like cratered it for me.
I get it.
I like the ending is so dark and not like how I would imagine a real person would like handle that situation.
Yeah, I mean
which
it is
weird
completely
because,
made up. No,
but it's a real guy though.
But that ending is completely made up.
Right. That's what I'm saying is like that's why it like the ending just like, oh man, like the movie spends the entire time being a certain kind of movie, and then I just like that was probably, it might have been my least favorite ending of a movie of the year, even and that includes Conclave, which had just like a very stupid ending to me. So
that's fair. That's fair. I get what you're saying.
yeah.
All right, what's your number 18?
My number 18 is what was one of my most anticipated of the year was Nosferatu.
Oh,
I liked Nosferatu. It had almost everything I would have wanted to see from an updated version especially knowing that it came from Robert Eggers, who was like the perfect person to do this, and it was like a passion project for him. Um, the original Nosferatu is just a seminal piece of filmmaking. Like that's a 5 out of 5 movie on principle. But I also just like love how like incredible the eeriness is. Like watching Nosferatu in 1921, I imagine is very similar to what it was like watching 2001: A Space Odyssey in 1969. Is people just like, what is happening right now? You
Yeah.
know, uh, and this, it didn't get some of the like, just like, it didn't have any of like the jaw dropping like cinematography set pieces that I was anticipating would come from this, with how much natural light is in this, and with just like the care that I know that Eggers takes with these, with his movies, and how important this was to him. So I was waiting for like, for something, especially with the castle or with the ship. I was waiting for something to just be like, just blow me away. And there wasn't anything like that that would have made this like a just an easy top 10 for me. But it's still just an unbelievably just rock solid movie that just gets everything about that it needs to right about it.
Yeah, I saw the original a couple weeks ago at the Music Box with a live, like a real dude doing a score, basically
Mm.
with a couple
Oh,
guitars.
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was a great experience. As there's so many fucking films that came out in December and January that I wanted to see. That, like, it just, I'm gonna get to it. There's like other films I want to see just like a little bit more. But I really loved his previous film, The Northman.
Yeah,
I'm excited to
Northman's
see
cool.
Nosferatu. I just haven't had time. Movie studio, stop releasing all your films this in a 2 month span, man.
Yeah,
Release it in October. I'll see it.
I hear you on that for sure. You're 19 or 18.
Yeah, my number 18 is a movie called Kneecap. I believe this was a Sundance film. It is about an Irish rap group that comes to prominence in Ireland singing in Gaelic. I believe it's Gaelic, Irish,
Hmm.
native
Traditional
language. Not,
Irish, yeah.
yeah, traditional Irish. The most famous person in this movie is Fassbender, Michael Fassbender, but that's not important. I didn't even realize that apparently the band plays themselves. I was like, oh, this is kind of like an 8 Mile situation. And honestly, I think 8 Mile is like a really good comp. A rap artist portraying themselves in kind of like a fictionalized rise to fame. Um, but Kneecap, like the first like 15, 20, 30 minutes, and it has like style out the wazoo. These characters are super entertaining. Um, it has a point of view, like why they have to sing in this traditional Irish language. I also think watching this after I saw the Hulu miniseries Say Nothing, um, which is overtly about the Troubles, and this is like, oh, we have this like piece of art that's about the Troubles, and then this piece of art that's like post Troubles that I ended up seeing like back to back that like really enhanced the experience. And even if like you don't know anything about the Troubles, it's just like a really super fun, enjoyable, Sundance film. And I think for me, the only reason it's not higher, because I have a lot of time for this film, is that a lot of the bigger ideas that it was going for doesn't quite congeal at the end, but the smaller stuff does. And like you really get to know these, like the rappers who play themselves does a really good job, because I didn't realize. I think I like had saw like advertisements because this came out, obviously early in 2024 being a Sundance film. I think I had at one point in my brain had that the rappers were playing themselves, but I'd completely forgotten that like while watching. So then when I looked it up again, I was like, dang, they're not professional actors. They're themselves, like do a really good job of that. And again, it's super fun, and it has a point and has a point of view. And I have a lot of time for this film.
So Kneecap is on my list. I have it at 16.
Oh,
Uh And for a hot minute, it was going to crack my top 10.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's good.
I it was one that I saw got released at the movies, and I do a lot of blind watches where I'm like, I'll see a poster and that's it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna check this out. Uh, so I went into it knowing very little, and enjoyed the hell out of Kneecap because I love movies about language. Uh, and
It's this and a
separately from that,
rifle.
yeah, I also love Arrival,
I love a rifle too.
uh, I have uh, but one of my giant pet peeves is when in a movie people are speaking the wrong language. And so like we just mentioned, Inglorious Bastards, which also is in a way a movie about language. Uh, it it has all these scenes where people they're speaking English to each other, or they're speaking French to each other, or they're speaking German to each other, and there's always a purpose behind what language they're speaking to each other. And so whenever movies get that right, I call it the bastard test,
Yeah.
because that's like the seminal example. And Kneecap, that's not necessarily what Kneecap is or isn't, but I love the point, because I there's something else I talk about a lot, which is movies that are based on true stories, and I call them "this happened" movies. And
I call them
Kneecap,
Wikipedia entries.
see, that's exactly the same thing, right? And Kneecap manages not to be that because, as you said, it just has such a message about it, and it's about the preservation of a dying language, and it's while also it's a very like punk era type thing of these guys sticking it to the man, except it's very recent because, as you put, they all play themselves, with the exception obviously of Fassbender. He's an actor, but like they all play themselves, and they all went through this not that long ago, just a few years ago.
Yeah.
So the music is so cool. And as you said, also like the movie is just so stylish and interesting, and I love seeing stuff like that. So yeah, Kneecap was a very very strong highlight from the year for me.
Yeah.
That's
And
number
it
16 on my
right.
list.
It manages to just like avoid that Wikipedia entry because it feels like it has a purpose for existing. It feels like this is a snapshot of a country and a culture in this,
Yeah,
like I said, post troubles time. And yeah, really, really well executed. I wish the ending was a tad bit better, but definitely worth your watch.
yeah, big time.
All right.
Uh,
We are on your 17.
so my 17 before Kneecap is a recent watch for me, which was Nickel Boys.
Oh,
Uh,
I want to see this. I just haven't. Again,
I
stop releasing your movies in friggin' January.
so I won't say a lot about it because I think that it needs to be seen with as little like you prep as possible. But what I'll say is this: the the POV and how they do it, it's surprising in a lot of ways. It is way less gimmicky than I expected, and there are some ways that it actually moves the plot forward too, which is an interesting layer. The movie is extremely hard hitting, and when you understand that it's a fictionalization that's kind of amalgamated from stuff that really happened, it really just transforms how you're looking at it. And it's just it's on my list because of just how well done it is. And it's going to be one of these movies that like really stands the test of time from when it came out. It got like, I won't get started on certain other movies, but like the attention that some other things are getting from the Academy Awards this year should definitely be going to Nickel Boys. It's just like powerful. It's a long movie again that just like you'd never feel that length. You're watching it and it just moves. And like the two young actors playing the two leads, it just so innovative, so interesting, and just just powerful drama. Like that's without giving away more than I want to. That's what I can say about it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Again, there's just so many movies that like I want to see that
Yeah,
are just like theaters. Like I can't see a movie every night, guys. I'm trying.
yeah.
Um, my number 17 and 6, I only talk about 17, but my next two films are really their strength is their cinematography and their mood and their vibe. Um, I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about cinematography. Like, can great cinematography like make a movie if it's just solely that? And I think the best case, like
Assassination
these
of
two,
Jesse James.
uh, I need to see that. I saw it in college and hated it, but people love it. I think these next two movies are like solely like its cinematography and mood and vibe are really its strengths. My number 17 film is a film directed by a woman named Rose Glass, and that is Love Lies Bleeding. Um, I really love films that like kind of feel mainstream, but are actually really left of center. And this one is definitely that. Um, it stars Kristen Stewart and Ed Harris in the 80s in this really small podunk Texas town. And a female bodybuilder comes to town and eventually forms a relationship with Kristen Stewart's character. And then there's a relationship where Ed Harris plays Kristen Stewart's dad. Um, but again, the plot of this movie is like interesting and enjoyable, but like I could tell you the plot, and that's like not really what's going to get you hooked. You can just like feel the dirt underneath the fingernails of this movie. It's like you can feel this small podunk Texas town. Um, and the ending definitely gets very surrealistic. And so if that's not your thing, you're going to hate this ending. To me, I loved it. Normally, like I hate metaphors that are ending, and actually, weirdly, the next one is I hate the ending that's a metaphor. But this one, it worked for me. Again, it's just that mood and vibe that Rose Glass brings to this project that just really sucked me in. Like, watch the first like 30 minutes of this movie, and if you don't like it, that's fine. I get it. But if it sucks you in, man, stick with it because I think it's a really, really good ride.
Uh, Love Lies Beating is on my list.
Dope.
I have it at 15, and I'll sign off on everything that you said, and I'll just elaborate on one thing, which is you talked about the plot and like the dirt under the fingernails thing. So my assessment of this movie was this is the best Coen Brothers movie in recent memory that is not actually a
Yes.
Coen Brothers movie,
Yeah, definitely.
because everything about the plot, the setup of this, like the bodybuilders, and I don't even mean like oh, because of like Burn After Reading, because honestly, I'm not thinking about that at all. I'm thinking about like the the crime that is decided is going to happen, and the array of supporting characters and how they're all related to each other, and what the chaos happens that as a result of like these just like very frayed relationships, these very just bad relationships. Like it's such a Coen Brothers type of plot setup where with like especially the crime gone wrong aspect of it. And yeah, this is a excellent movie from this year. And like again, the surreal ending, like, oh, just great. And this is another one with a really dark ending, and I was like very much more okay with it than I was in Hitman, because this was that type of movie all along,
Right.
you know. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, so co-signed on Love Lies Bleeding.
Yeah, I want to give credit to the bodybuilder. I believe her name is Anya
Katie
Barishnikov.
O'Brien.
Oh, Katie. Okay, good. I'm looking at IMDb. Thank you. Katie O'Brien.
Yeah.
She kills it too. I'm looking at
Yeah.
IMDb and I just can't find her, but she was great. But like Ed Harris with his like fake hair that goes down to the
Oh
bag of
yeah.
butter. It's like him and Kristen Stewart and Katie O'Brien like know what movie they're in, which really helps for like a film like this. And it's like I said, it's a mood, it's a vibe, and I think we both dig that mood and vibe. So
Absolutely.
we are on your 16.
My 16 was Kneecap, and while we're at it, my 15 was Love Lies Bleeding.
All right. So we'll go to my other film that I think is pure mood and vibe, and that is Jane Schoenbrun's "I Saw the TV Glow," um, where so first and foremost, like it is an allegory about the trans experience, um, and it is taken directly from Jane's life, but the straightforwardness of like it, the first shot again, this was something that I rewatched yesterday, part of it, where like it's this bright suburban street with like these neon glow and the neon and fluorescent lights of both the words that appear on screen and like the chalk that appears on like the suburban driveway. Where this is also very much a nostalgic vibe for millennials, where the on its plot is Justice Smith gets hooked into this. Basically, it's like a Nick at Night show called the Pink Opaque, and it's very much a play on um, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But like the way that uh, it's filmed is like so smart, and like the whole part of the purpose of the film is kind of like this is what you're nostalgic for. This is what it really is, really millennials. Um, that it's just again, if you're not sucked in with the first half hour, that's okay. Turn it off. More power to you. And I can go into the plot, and I don't think the plot matters that much. It's just the way that this movie looks, and that the way that this movie feels, and especially as a millennial, that it's like I'm the perfect target for it. And I used to love those Nick at Night shows. That's like, man, you fucking got me. You got me, Jane. And I was just in.
Yeah, I saw this too. I gave it 4 out of 5. Didn't get onto my list. But I'm also co-signed on the cinematography aspect. That was what really just makes it like such a interesting mood piece to sit through. And I thought exactly the same thing that you did about the like the Pink Opaque. And I was watching it and I was just like, how has no millennial made this exact movie by now?
Right?
How did this take this long to get made? Because you said you nailed it with like the Buffy and everything. Like that's exactly what it is. And I'm like, dude, yeah, like where's everybody on this? This took way too long. So that your 16 or your 15?
That was my 16. My 15 was Ministry of Ungenderly Warfare. So
And
go to your
mine was Love Lies Bleeding.
so let's do your 14.
My 14 is I think my only Netflix movie on here, but it was Rebel Ridge.
Ooh, that is number 11 for me. So let's talk about Rebel Ridge.
Yeah. So I'm in a like this glut of stuff here in this list. This is all stuff like I have a clump of stuff that just barely did not make my top 10 of stuff that I was just like, man, this is just really rock solid. And uh I love Jack Reacher,
With the
the
show?
movie. I haven't
Oh,
watched the show. I love the Christopher McQuarrie movie though, the Tom Cruise movie. I freaking love it. The second one is like okay, whatever. But like that first one, that is such a just awesome suspense movie. Uh and Rebel Ridge nails so many of the same things that does. People were calling it like the non-lethal Reacher. Um, so just like the groundedness of it and the dialogue scenes work so great to me. Just basically everything about it was like just excellent to watch. The ending, like lost a little bit of like the juice that was working throughout, like it like just got a little too out there, but overall just excellent. Like this is like damn near the best version of this movie that you could possibly make.
Yeah, I mean, I think shout out to Jeremy Saulnier who directed it,
Yeah.
who like is a master of like these small scale, realistic feeling crime action movies.
Hmm.
Um, shout out to Aaron Pierre, who this was going to be and was a John Boyega film, and I think John Boyega would have brought his own spin to this. But this guy Aaron Pierre, he's going to be a huge star because he's going to be in the Green
Yeah, the
Lanterns
Green
HBO
Lantern.
show.
Yeah.
But this is a star-making performance. He's absolutely
Yeah.
incredible as the lead character. I thought Don Johnson killed it as the crooked
Yeah.
sheriff, who's the heavy of this film. Um, I heard a lot of people compare it to First Blood. It kind of has that little bit of
Yeah.
the corrupt small town against the guy. I think its only flaw is the Anna Sophia Robb stuff kind of sucks and drags it down. But it's
It's hard to watch too.
yeah, and it's that obviously because it's an action movie, you have to suspend some disbelief. But the way that Saulnier is able to both suspend your disbelief and it's like, man, this feels super fucking real. Like this guy could totally take on this police force was just like a masterclass. I mean, you talk about almost being your top 10. This was in my top 10 at number 10 for like the longest time. I think it's so well done. And this is one that's like, man, like, could this been in theaters? Maybe, but it's really well done. A
Yeah.
lot of time for Rebel Ridge.
Yeah. Rules.
My number
You're
14
14.
is also an action film, and that is Alex Garland's Civil War. This
Okay.
was a film I remember you talking about trailers. First seeing this trailer, like, no, fuck this, no. I don't need to see a movie about the divisiveness of this country. It's already fucked as it is. And then watching it and you realize it's like not that at all. It's
Hmm.
this American Civil War is just a backdrop for for Kristen Dunst and Wagner Moore and Kaylee Spiney's characters. Like the set pieces in this movie, I think are just so well done. It's really like a movie about photojournalists more than anything.
Hmm. Yeah.
And honestly, when I first saw this, I was like, because not what I was expecting, because that's Alex Garland. Of course, it's filmed well. And it's like, this is just an awesome action movie. And I think if you're taking any sort of politics into it, then you're just reading way too much into it. It's just an action movie. And weirdly, it's the only reason this movie isn't in my top 10 is that I saw it again with my wife, and I was like, once you know where it's going and where the action scenes are going, it kind of like loses a little bit of its luster. I was like, oh man, that's kind of a bummer. This wasn't as fun as watching it the second time around as the first time. But again, if you're just taking it for like an action movie for what it is, then it's a real like I'm glad that A24 was able to spend a little bit of money to make it look like an actual civil war is going on.
Yeah, man. I did get out to see it on in a Dolby format, which was cool. I was pretty sour on it when I first watched it. I softened on it. I haven't rewatched it, but I did soften on it a little bit later. Um, as far as the politics, like for me, it was like a little too cute, like trying to tap dance around the thing. But like over time, like that was one thing that I softened on because I'm like, like it's less. It's not about that. It's about as you said, it's a love letter to journalists and wartime journalists, right? So like that aspect of it, like it works really well. A lot of the scenes are really intense, but like also like the Jesse Plemons scene, I'm like they like this was way too featured in the marketing
Yeah,
because
that
again it's
that
just
part
like
is like I wish they hadn't done it because Jesse Plemons is so fucking good in that scene. I wish they
but
left it out
but
completely.
all of it is in every trailer and I'm like
I
the thing
know.
is like it's intense but like also there's only one real direction that this scene can go and it goes
Right.
exactly where you expect it to go and you're just like oh, okay that was it. um this is another one I hated the ending that like the like
Yeah.
not the very ending like the very ending I was like
I,
this is like kind of awesome but
I
like
hate the machinations of what happens to Kristen Dunst's character.
Yeah,
and that
that was just so out of nowhere to me. Like,
yeah, that
and
part
it didn't make any sense.
it
Like the
does.
weird like
They do. I think they do set it up. I just think the specific machinations of the execution were terrible, which is weird
yeah,
from Alex Garland. But I think you have to view this as like this is an action movie. This isn't Alex Garland's political take on America. And I think if you go into
right,
that, you're going to have a more enjoyable experience.
yeah. You know, who knows? Maybe I'll like it a little bit more with a rewatch at some point. But you know, it was a like it had stuff in it that works, but ultimately was not one that I included. So
All right, fair enough. What is your 13?
my 13 is Saturday Night.
Ooh, that is in my top 10, but speak on it.
So this is another one that was just like it was in there for a bit. Ultimately, I dropped it down because I was like, it just didn't do enough that was like new and fresh and exciting. Um, like I'm not like somebody that was like that's been just like a giant like Andy Kaufman stan, but I watched Man on the Moon last year and I really enjoyed or in 2023 and I enjoyed the hell out of it. I watched the documentary with Jim Carrey, Jim and Andy the Great Beyond on Netflix. If you're a fan of Man on the Moon, that documentary is like literally like a sequel to Man on the Moon,
Yeah,
but
it's really
it's
good.
just like you've seen it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've seen
I
both.
loved it. Um, and so the way that they kind of deploy Andy Kaufman in this is more for like people who are less familiar with Andy Kaufman. Um, and it also is really sucks because he was supposed to be played by Benny Safety, which I don't know if you knew that, but a
I thought
scheduling
he was great
conflict.
playing by Nicholas Braun, double role
Yeah,
of him and Jim
that's why
Henson.
I discovered after the fact that's why he plays both characters because he also plays Jim Henson. But basically Saturday Night is like it's so fun. The production like of the movie recreating the production of the show was incredible. It's a real like Steve Jobs vibe from
Yeah.
Aaron Sorkin. But like but again, you know, it's just an extremely enjoyable love letter to like that era of SNL, and is so it's just hits me in a soft spot, and I like seeing John Belushi portrayed. Like it was, yeah, it was just it's very very enjoyable.
So I will just say I'm going to just speak on it briefly because I'll get more in depth in our next half. I saw it in theaters and saw it again because it's now streaming on Netflix. I definitely feel solid that it deserves to be in my top 10. And I just want to say that I think it sucks that it never really had any serious consideration to be in any sort of like Oscar consideration
Hmm.
once it came out. And I get it. I get it because it played at TIFF. It didn't do well at TIFF. It like got like fifth place in the audience voting. And then it came to theaters and like nobody saw it. Like for some reason the critics didn't like it. And I get it. Movies, you can't just like will necessarily like Oscar considerations when all that's against you. I love this movie, and I personally think it sucks. Like, because for the longest time, there's like, oh my god, Jason Reitman's making a Saturday Night movie. It's totally going to get a bunch of Oscar nominations, and it didn't get any, and I'm bummed.
Yeah. No,
Um,
yeah, I wish that it had made more of an impact, but I also thought that that was really like in the spirit of SNL, you know?
exactly. My number 13 is the fourth installment of I think one of the most underrated Big Tent franchises going on right now, and that is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Um, the 2 and 3 were directed by Matt Reeves, and they're awesome. And he went on to do the Batman, which I absolutely love. And so this one was directed by Wes Ball, who like did the Maze Runner movies. So he's like an experienced hand of doing like big budget movies. but I also think it's a pretty big drop off between Matt Reeves and this dude. No disrespect to him, but this also movie, like, I don't know how you feel about the Planet of the Apes franchise, these new ones. I absolutely adore him. I love him, man. I think Andy Serkis as Caesar the ape like deserved legit Oscar consideration, and I get it, like the actors don't. I thought he was absolutely incredible. I just loved how this film it sets up like this whole new world. It takes place like generations after Andy Serkis's Caesar has died, and it's all about like the myth making of religion that happens. Like it's a very obvious Jesus parable about these two young apes that have to go out, wander to the world, come across an actual human, which apes thought were extinct all these generations later. They come across Proximus Caesar, played by the really awesome character actor named Kevin Durand. And I just love the fact that it's very much in line with the ethos of these Planet of the Apes movies while also taking a point of view. Like, ultimately, it's like a big budget blockbuster, right? It's like not like super deep, but the fact that it has this point of view and like it has something to say that like it wedges itself into just like I think the CGI is incredible in this movie. You know, I know like doing CGI apes is monkeys is like nothing special in 2024. But I just man, it's just like this is just like maybe it's a personal preference because these movies just do okay and not great. I'm just a huge fan of like if like these movies are just going to be this like quality, just right into my veins. I'll go see every single one. Really enjoyed this franchise. Really thought it was a really great addition to this franchise.
Yeah, man, right on, man. So Kingdom did not crack my list, but very that franchise very high floor of entertainment value. Uh, the the slight miss of Kingdom for me was that uh nothing in the later half of the movie topped the the climb that he does in the beginning in terms of the sense of like adventure and danger. um the VFX are amazing in this. The part where like the big silo is getting flooded towards the end, I was like, the water in this looks better than Avatar 2.
Yeah,
This is just unbelievably good special effects. The ending, like with the Eagle Clan, like I was like, this is cool. I liked it, but the third act was missing like some like a big cool set piece. I was underwhelmed by like the whole silo thing, and I was missing like some really good aping at the end.
oh.
That would have like really like brought that movie home for me.
See, I love the Kevin Durant character of Proximus Caesar to play well. So it's like I thought that West Ball really delivered awesome tension. Like I legit didn't know what was going to happen at the end. But you're right.
Yeah,
That set piece at the very beginning where they're climbing the trees is just absolutely incredible.
yeah.
Um, again, one thing this movie does is I personally thought it does like in its set pieces just a really great job of building tension. And I think it did well enough, and the movie clearly sets up a fifth one. And
Yeah,
man, I'm gonna go see it opening weekend, man. I love these movies.
I'll be seated. It's these are, like I said, there's just a very high floor of entertainment. Like,
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Like I don't think they're ever gonna reach like I know you don't like this movie personally, but like Dark Knight level of like awesomeness. But man, they're just gonna if high floor, if they're gonna be this quality, love it, man. Love it.
yeah.
All right, what is your number 12?
My number 12 is an Aubrey Plaza movie,
My old ass?
Megalopolis. No, it's
I
no, it's my old ass. I
totally
just
forgot she was
man,
in
my old ass.
Megalopolis.
I was not expecting this to just like hit right in the feels, but my old ass, like it's funny, it is heartwarming. It I'm like the right age to watch this because I want to say she's what like 39 The Aubrey Plaza version of the character is like 39, and her younger self is like 20 something, like her like 21, 22. But like I'm like the right age to be like the older version, and I'm just like this is like just very just well done. And considering how little I should connect with the younger version of the character, I still just found it extremely easy to watch, and just it's just funny and interesting. And it's like I like these like independent movies that take a like a genre concept, like she can now communicate and text with her older self, and they put such a like low key non like set piece like spin on it, to and just have a very just like, here, this is working, and this happens, and just deal with it. Like that was yeah, just an extremely well done, heartfelt, just like good movie.
Yeah, you're not the first person that I've heard who trusts the recommendations to that really likes My Old Ass. That's definitely one I got to get to. I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
number 12 is one that I feel fairly confident you've seen it because a lot of people in America have seen it. And that is Glenn Powell's other movie, Twisters.
Mm.
Um, so it's directed by Lee Isaac Chung, who his first movie, Minari, was a small indie film that did very well at the Oscars. I think it got a bunch of nominations and it won Best Supporting Actress. And the way I kind of looked at it, I think it's if you look at Ryan Coogler's career, he started off with a very small indie film that got some acclaim and recognition, not as much as Minari. And he used that cred to go into a franchise movie, and he did Creed and shot the hell out of Creed. Now, Twisters is nowhere near Creed, but I kind of look at Lee Isaac Chung's path as kind of the similar, like, I don't know how many people was asking for a Twisters remake, but you know what? I bet you he when he go in and go, people love that Twister. It's franchise, it's recognizable IP. This is big budget. They saved some money on Daisy Edgar Jones and Glenn Powell probably at the time. That definitely can't get those two for that price point anymore. And just did his own, it is technically a franchise movie, but probably not a franchise anyone was clamoring for. And this movie to me is fun as hell. I don't really have an affinity and a huge affection for the original Twister.
Yeah,
And so I think that's why I like it a lot. It's because he essentially takes the same premise as the 1996 Jan de Bont film, but flips it where instead of focusing on the misfit ragtag team, like he starts to centralize focus on the evil Anthony Ramos and Daisy Edgar Jones. Like we got the money and we're the bad guys. Like they would have been the bad guys in the first one. And
yeah,
just even that little inversion that by
yeah.
basically doing the same
It
film,
was
I'm like,
sneaky.
so smart, man. I love it. I'm in. And yeah, a lot of it is follow the beats of the original movie. But you know what? That original movie's fun as hell. Like, do I want to see things getting blown up by a twister? Yeah, man, I do. You got me. Saw it in a packed house opening weekend. Again, Glenn Powell, he's now a huge star. And I just want movie stars being movie stars. And this was like a really star-making performance from Powell. Does it have anything to say? Absolutely not. Is it a really fun blockbuster that's not necessarily like superheroes that like I will totally, you know, spend my money on if it's like made this well? Yeah, I will. Like, give me these sorts of blockbusters as opposed to the same superhero. It's uh, um, another multiversal bullshit. It's like fine. Like I said, I like Deadpool and Wolverine, but like it all feels like let's do something even new. And even though this isn't that new because it's basically the 1996 movie, I'm all in. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed Twisters too. It didn't make my list, but I'm with you in a lot of ways. I didn't I saw the original Twister like in its full, like, late in life. it's like okay, like there's like a hilarious amount of like awesome people in it. Like I have a running joke of like Todd Field, like well-known director of like Tar and May December, or no, that's Todd Haynes. I always mix them up. But the point is that Todd Field is like one of the background actors in that movie. Like
Right.
it's hilarious. Um, I enjoyed Twisters. It was solid. And I like the same thing that you like, the sneaky little inversion of like, oh hey, like these are like the startup guys and these are the asshole guys, but it turns out like, oh, we're actually the evil ones, like I like that was cool, like a cool like twist from the first movie. So but yeah, Twisters was solid, and just it's the era of Glenn Powell.
Now I will say, once I heard the controversy, like, yeah, him and Daisy Edgar Jones really should have kissed at the end. I like, oh, Steven Spielberg gave you, to do it, the most asexual director in like the history of movies.
Yeah.
Congrats. Like, but whatever. It didn't ruin it. It is. I do kind of agree that they should have kissed. But regardless, super fun movie. It's an awesome popcorn blockbuster. I think everyone will enjoy it. So that was my 12, and my 11 was Rebel Ridge. So what is the last movie of this section of the podcast?
Uh, well, I don't have to spend too much time on it. My number 11 is Deadpool and Wolverine. Uh,
After I just shit
all
on multiversal
Yeah,
superhero movie.
yeah, you did. But you know what? It's okay, because there was a time when like in my life when this would have been in like my top three. The reason that I still loved it and I still put it in there is because it, as much as it is like gratuitous, like play like Marvel gets to play with their new toys in like a literal sense. They managed to get something extremely heartfelt out of it with what they decided to do, and it's just, and I'm not ashamed to say that it is just an extremely like fun time at the movies. Like when frickin' Chris Evans comes out, and everybody's like, oh my god, Captain America, and I'm just like, I don't think so, and then just like,
Then the flame
oh
on.
man, yeah, I'm screaming, I'm cheering, I'm yelling, and when frickin' Snipes comes out, dude, I hit the ceiling when Wesley Snipes comes out. So like I can't with that movie, man. Like it's just like, is it the best movie on this list? Not even close. But it's like it's why I go.
Yeah,
That,
it's a
like
love letter to
like
those 20th century Fox,
right.
early 2000 superhero movies.
Yeah. That's plain and simple.
I saw this much later in the run, so I had seen some spoilers. And even still, again, took my wife and I went to see this one out to dinner afterwards. I, I like really wanted to hate this movie and wanted to just be oh, this is cynical multiversal bullshit. And it is, but fuck, man, is it enjoyable to watch. It's
And
like, I
Hugh
don't,
Jackman did not phone it in either. He could have
yeah,
easily.
he did a great job, great interplay off of him and Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. I didn't think that would work necessarily, but man, they made it work. They, clearly earned their $1 billion. Like,
Yeah.
I want to hate this movie and I can't. I've used this word a lot in this, but it's a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Absolutely.
That is do you want to just do a quick recap of your 11 through 24?
Yeah, let's do it. So 24, I have Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. 23, Evil Does Not Exist. 22, The Substance. 21, Wolves. 20, The Fall Guy. 19, Horizon and American Saga Chapter 1. 8, that was 19. 18, Nosferatu. 17, Nickel Boys. 16, Kneecap. 15, Love Lies Bleeding. 14, Rebel Ridge. 13, Saturday Night. 12, Mild Ass. 11, Deadpool and Wolverine.
All right, am I 24 through 11? 24, I have the Netflix documentary How to Rob a Bank. 23, I have Furiosa. 22, I have Scoop. 21, I have Gladiator 2. 20, I have Thelma. 19, I have Hitman. 18, I have Kneecap. 17, I have Love Lies Bleeding. 16, I have I Saw the TV Glow. 15, I have The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Number 14 is Civil War. Number 13 is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Number 12 is Twisters. And number 11 is Rebel Ridge. We are going to take a quick break before we get to our top 10s. It's going to be on a different stream. But what you want to give out your socials, give out your Letterboxd handle? I know it's on our screen too, but
Yeah, you can follow me on Letterboxd. I'm at Final Exposition, and I'm C Hendershot on Blue Sky. I am not on the Bird website anymore. I mean, I still have it. I haven't deleted it, but I'm not posting there anymore.
yeah, I am Millennial Socks on both Blue Sky and Letterboxd. I'm with you. Fuck the Bird app. And stick around when we go over our top 10s. Peace out, everyone.